healthy Indian cooking. We are from the brilliant restaurant in Southwark, which is not far from here. We've been open for 40 years, and recently, I say recently, 4 or 5 years ago, we put some healthy option dishes on our menu because there was demand for healthier cooking. We still have our traditional favorite dishes on the menu, but we have just put on healthy options for those kind of health-conscious panties, if you like. So what we're going to be doing today is one of the dishes that's actually in my book. We launched a new cookbook about 5 months ago. It's in all the bookstores now. It's only £20, but we are doing a special offer today for £15. If you do want to buy one, you can do, and I'm quite happy to sign it for you as well. So I'm just going to tell you about the dish that we're going to be cooking today. It's the vegetable keema, and it's made with soya mince. So what we do is substitute the lamb mince, which is obviously full of saturated fat, and some people don't actually like to eat red meat because of that reason. And we are using soya mince, which is a healthier alternative. So it's still a protein, but a healthier protein. So I'm going to show you how to cook that, how to cook it be healthier. Lots of people have a preconception that Indian food is quite oily and quite greasy, but I'm just going to prove to you that it doesn't have to be that way. And the only oil that I'm using today is a new kind of oil that we have started to use a lot on our in our cuisine and on our menu. That's the rapeseed oil, okay? That's the only fat that I'm going to be cooking with today. And I'm just going to show you how it's all the spices in our cooking that actually give the flavor, as opposed to the butter or the oil that we put in. Soya mince is quite a dry protein, so it will need water. So I do have plenty of water here as well. So I think let's not waste time and let's get started. If anybody does have any questions, then I'm quite happy to answer them for you as well. Okay, let's make a start. Okay. Okay, so instead of using rapeseed oil, so I'm going to start by heating some oil in my saute pan. And I'm not going to be generous with my oil, okay? I don't want to put too much oil, so I'm going to put about, this is not a teaspoon, it's not a tablespoon, it's somewhere in between. So I'm going to put about, say 4 or 5 of these and no more. Thank you, that's very kind of you, thank you. Okay, so we're just heating our oil, and then the next step is to fry our whole spices in our oil. The whole spices that I'm going to be using today are, first of all, the black cardamom, which will give a nice smoky flavor. And the reason it's going to give a smoky flavor is because black cardamom is naturally, well, it's smoked when it's manufactured anyhow. So it's going to give that smoky kick. So I'm going to add about 4 black cardamoms to my keema. Because black cardamom goes really well with any kind of mince, especially when you're cooking with red meat. But we're substituting today, like I said, with soya. So I've added black cardamom. Then I'm going to add some cinnamon. So I'm going to add about 3 to 4 small sticks of cinnamon, and just fry those lightly in the oil. I'm going to decrease my heat because I don't want my spices to burn in the oil. And then I'm going to add some onions. So I'll tell you how much I'm adding. I've added here about 100 grams of onions, okay? And the secret here is to saute our onions as well as we can. And if the onions do go a little bit dry, you might need to add oil. At this stage, lots of people do add butter and ghee, but we're going to try avoid using that and just use our rapeseed oil, okay? And like I said, if you have any questions during the demonstration, please just put your hands up and just shout them out, and I'll be quite happy to answer. So this is a healthier way of cooking. I put the cinnamon in just to give a nice hint of sweetness to our soya mince as well. So the secret to cooking Indian food and getting it dead bright is to cook, first of all, our onions as much as we can. It's really important that we cook off our onions as well as possible, because that is what's going to be the difference between a great curry and a not so great curry, okay? So it's really important that your onions, I say this when I'm giving food demonstrations and when I'm teaching candidates on how to cook, it's really important that you get your onions caramelized. What does caramelize mean? Now to me it means be about 2 minutes away from burning. So you want to go beyond the sweetness stage of the onions. And I'm going to put my heat a little faster so that we can cook this
Unfortunately, cooking Indian food does take a lot of time. The reason that lots of people do use things like butter and ghee and saturated fats is because it makes the food cook quicker. But if you take your time and use less oil, I know it takes a little more time and people don't always have time, but that's one sacrifice that you have to make. Cooking food or making food a bit healthier takes a little bit more time. But it's okay, we have 1 hour, I'm told, which is fine. Any questions in the meantime? We'll pass around the mic if you have a question, quite happy to answer for you. So I'm just sweating down my onions. Like I said, if this goes dry, I'm going to add a combination of water and I might add a touch of oil. But like I said, there's no butter, no ghee on my table at home, here or at home actually. I don't use butter or ghee in my house. Obviously in the restaurant, we do use it for some dishes, but now we've got the healthier options on our menu as well. I just been asked a question how much oil I would use in this. So I've used about, if you say tablespoon wise, that's not a tablespoon. So I used about 3 tablespoons of rapeseed oil so far. And if I need to add more, maybe I'll add two or three more tablespoons of oil, but no more. Okay.
For how many people? What's the portion?
So I've used about 100 grams of onion here, chopped onion, finely chopped. That would serve, this would serve easily about 4 people.
Sorry, does the oil taste different? Can you make out the difference between the rapeseed oil or the ghee, butter, olive oil, and when you eat the food, can you taste the difference?
Lots of people have preferences with the kind of oil that they want, that they use. For example, some people believe olive oil doesn't go very well in Indian cooking, but it's one of the key ingredients that I use in my book, especially for marinations. Now, some people believe that nutrients are lost upon cooking when you cook with things like olive oil, but that goes for any oil that you use. You will get nutrients which are lost, but significantly it doesn't taste very different. When you taste it, you won't say this has got a weird taste or it's very strong. There are different types of rapeseed oils. If you get the lighter one, that's also great to use. There are corn oil, there, like I said, olive oil you can use. So it's really preference on what oil you want to use. But I would use it only in limited quantities like I have done. So it's up to you what kind of oil you want to use. Corn oil works really well as well. It's one that we use at the restaurant. And sunflower oil is great too.
So would you say sunflower oil is better than olive oil? Or any oil in moderation is okay?
Any oil in moderation is okay. Obviously, they've got their polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats within them. And like I said, people do have preferences, but nutrients using any oil are lost upon cooking. So again, it comes down to preference. This time we're using rapeseed oil. Tomorrow when I'm doing a demonstration, I might use sunflower oil. Any other questions? And you can see here my onions are starting to sizzle. You can see that quite a lot. They've gone brown, but they're not brown enough. So I don't want my onions to stay raw. I need to cook them off as well as I can. And I can see this is also calling for more moisture. So I'm going to add a touch more oil to this. Just maybe I said 2 more, but I'm going to add 1. And then the next ingredients when your onions are caramelized are going to be the ginger garlic paste and the green chili paste. Ginger garlic paste is one of the key ingredients that we use in Punjabi cooking. And it's actually ginger and garlic that gives your curry, again, a great taste. So you want to use it in significant amounts, okay? Also, for this demonstration, I don't have a hand blender, but what I would do is blend this sauce once I put the tomatoes in, just to give it a smoother texture. Are your hands hurting? I'm just going to remove actually. Any other questions while these onions are just finishing browning? Anybody vegetarian?
It's a suggestion that in the first place what you said, rapeseed oil. Rapeseed oil is better than any other oil.
Yeah.
Because of the cholesterol content.
Yeah.
And also, if you use olive oil, then it destroys the good quality of olive oil.
Yes.
That is also expensive.
Yes.
So that way you were right in the first place.
Yes, that's quite right. The gentleman just said that rapeseed oil has nutrients, and nutrients aren't lost as much as olive oil. You can't say they're not lost totally because you use any oil and nutrients are lost. But olive oil, for example, if you buy the extra virgin, is used for dressings and salad dressings and things like that. But if you buy the normal olive oil, you can use it in cooking, and it doesn't actually affect the flavor. In fact, when I use olive oil in marination, it is the chicken tikka marination or the paneer tikka marination, and even better flavor. We also use olive oil on our salad dressings, and the food comes out very tasty indeed. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the onions are browned off, and I told you they're going to be about 2 minutes away from burning. So now my next step is to add the ginger garlic paste. Fresh ginger garlic paste is always better, and I'm going to tell you how to make this in a second. About 1.5 of these teaspoons of ginger garlic paste, and then chili paste. Again, it depends on how hot you like it, but I'm not going to make it too spicy. I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon worth of green chili because we are going to be putting in red chili a little later. Okay, and with this, it will start to sizzle quite a lot. And I'm going to now need the plum peeled tomato. And you can see that this is combined really, really well. Our base is spot on, so I'm going to add the tomatoes, and this is about 360 grams of plum peel tomatoes. Now it's preference, you can use whole tomatoes and grind them fresh, or you can use tinned tomatoes. Okay, it's really again up to you, but anything fresh is always better. Now I told you I'll tell you how we make the ginger and garlic paste. It's a key ingredient in our cooking. We make the ginger and garlic paste by chopping ginger and garlic fresh in equal amounts. We put it into a little coffee grinder or a grinder with a little bit of water and made it into a paste that looks like this. And if you want me to pass this round, I can pass this round. Okay, like I said, I've got no blender here, but when I'm hand blending, I would hand blend it at this stage, just so that the masala becomes a little bit smoother. So you can all see that it's quite chunky, but if you were blending, you would blend at this stage. Also, if you were blending, you take the whole spices out and then blend. Okay? The reason I would blend before I put my spices in is because it saves my blender stick from going together with the haldi. Okay, I'm going to slightly increase the heat now, and it's going to start to bubble and spit at me, so I do have a lid as well, but before it does that, I'm going to add the spices. And the key spices that we're going to add now, firstly the turmeric, which has many digestive properties, so I'm going to add about a teaspoon worth of turmeric, red chili powder, called the lal mirch, being used in India actually over 2,000 years now, same as the haldi. It's also a very good source of vitamin C, the red chili powder, so I put in about 1 teaspoon worth of red chili powder. And remember, this does have green chili in it as well, so once they both combine, it will become quite fierce, so we're not going to keep it too hot. Then I'm going to add some cumin powder, again about 1 teaspoon of cumin, just to infuse it nicely with that thyme-like flavor. And then a touch of coriander powder. Now when we're using coriander powder, I've put about half a teaspoon in, but when we're using coriander powder, we can put it into the masala towards kind of the middle, but when we're using fresh coriander, we always put it in last so that all the flavor retains. And fresh coriander is a herb that loses its flavor the quickest, that's why we put it in last. And believe it or not, fresh coriander and coriander powder, although they come from the same place, they taste totally different. Fresh coriander is very zesty and lemony and fresh, whereas the coriander powder that I've just added is kind of earthy and warm. Okay, I'm now going to add the salt. Again, with salt, some people I know feel that food isn't tasty if it doesn't have salt in. You can get the low salt, okay, if you want to make it healthier. So I'm going to add some salt here, but I'm not going to overpower it with salt. And then at the end, if we want to